The woman collapsed against the iron gate just as the first true howl of the blizzard tore through the mountain pass, her fingers leaving streaks of red across the black metal before she crumpled into the snow. Hadrian Everhart heard the impact from his study 3 floors above the entrance, a sound that shouldn't have registered over the storm's fury, but did because nothing happened at his gates without his awareness. He was at the window in an instant, his preternatural speed leaving a wake of disturbed air that sent papers scattering across his desk. Below, barely visible through the white chaos, he saw her. A dark shape against the accumulating drifts, utterly still. His first instinct was to return to his work. Humans who wandered into these mountains usually did so with ill-intent hunters, thrill-seekers, journalists hoping to prove the rumors true. He'd turned away countless times before, let the cold claim those foolish enough to venture where they didn't belong. But something stopped him. Perhaps it was the way she'd touched the gate, that desperate reach before falling. Perhaps it was simply that in 800 years of existence, he'd grown weary of unnecessary death. He was outside before he'd consciously made the decision, the blizzard's assault meaning nothing to his undead flesh. The cold that would kill a human in hours was merely an annoyance, snowflakes melting against skin that held no natural warmth of its own. He crossed the courtyard in seconds, his white hair the mark of his kind whipping around a face that hadn't aged since his 28th year, back when kings still ruled by divine right and vampires hid in genuine shadow rather than legal loopholes. She was barely breathing. He could hear her heartbeat, weak and irregular, struggling against the hypothermia shutting down her body system by system. Her lips had gone blue, frost crystallizing in her dark eyelashes. She wore inadequate clothing jeans, a jacket meant for autumn rather than a mountain winter, boots that were already soaked through. No hat, no gloves. Her hands were torn and bleeding, fingernails broken. She'd been running from something. Running hard and long enough to end up here, at the furthest edge of civilization, where his estate marked the boundary between the human world and the true wilderness beyond. Hadrian crouched beside her, his pale fingers checking her pulse. Thready, fading. Minutes away from death, perhaps less. Her skin felt like ice even to his cool touch. Foolish creature, he muttered, but he was already gathering her into his arms, lifting her as easily as one might lift a child. She weighed nothing to his strength. This fragile human girl who'd somehow made it 15 miles up a mountain road in the middle of a winter storm that would have stopped anyone sensible. The warmth of his manner hit like a physical wall as he carried her inside. His staff, all human, all well compensated for their discretion, appeared immediately. His steward, Marcus, took one look at the woman in his master's arms and began issuing orders. Hot bottles, blankets, call Dr. Reeves. Tell him it's urgent. No. Hadrian's voice cut through the sudden flurry of activity. No doctors, not yet. Get me what I asked for and leave us. All of you. Marcus hesitated only a moment. He'd served the Everhart family for 30 years, long enough to know when to question and when to obey. Yes, my lord. Hadrian carried the woman to his private chambers, something he never did with humans. His space was his sanctuary, untouched by mortal presence for decades. But the guest rooms were too far, and she was dying. He could hear it in the way her heart stuttered, the way her breathing grew shallower with each passing second. He laid her on his bed black silk sheets, a massive 4-poster frame carved from wood so old it predated most nations, and began stripping away her wet clothing with efficient, impersonal movements. This was survival, nothing more. Wet clothes would kill her as surely as the cold itself. Her body was covered in bruises, old ones yellowing at the edges and fresh ones purple-black across her ribs and arms, defensive wounds on her forearms, a handprint on her upper arm, the individual fingers clearly visible in the mottled skin. Hadrian's jaw tightened. He'd seen marks like these before, throughout his long existence. They told a story he knew too well. Marcus returned with an armful of supplies, his eyes carefully averted from the bed. Dr. Reeves is snowed in at the village. He can't make it up the mountain until the storm breaks. I said no doctors anyway. Leave everything and go. When they were alone again, Hadrian wrapped the woman in blankets, surrounded her with hot water bottles, did everything mortal medicine suggested for severe hypothermia. But it wasn't enough. He could hear her heart failing, see the blue tinge spreading from her lips down her throat. She was dying despite his intervention. He stood over her, his hands clenched at his sides. This wasn't his problem. She wasn't his responsibility. Whatever she was running from, whatever had driven her up this mountain in the middle of a blizzard, it had nothing to do with him, but she'd made it to his gate. Against all odds, through conditions that should have killed her hours ago, she'd made it here, to him. Damn it, he whispered. and bit into his own wrist. The blood welled immediately, dark and ancient. He pressed it to her blue lips, forcing them apart with his thumb, letting drops fall onto her tongue. "Swallow," he commanded, putting centuries of vampiric compulsion into the word. Her throat worked reflexively, once, twice. His blood, powerful enough to command armies, to topple kingdoms, slid down her throat and began its work. The change was immediate. Color flooded back into her face, her heart suddenly beating stronger, faster. The hypothermia reversed in seconds, as his blood healed the damage, repairing cells, restoring function. Her body temperature began to rise toward normal, but she still didn't wake. Hadrian withdrew his wrist, watching as the wound sealed itself. What he'd done was forbidden by a dozen different vampire laws. His blood in a human created a bond, a connection that couldn't be easily broken. She would carry his mark now, be tied to him in ways that would complicate both their existences. He should regret it, should be angry at himself for this moment of weakness. Instead, he found himself sitting on the edge of the bed, watching her face as the color returned fully, as her breathing deepened into genuine sleep rather than the shallow gasps of dying. She was younger than he'd first thought, mid-20s perhaps, with dark hair that fanned across his pillow and features that were striking rather than conventionally pretty. Strong jaw, high cheekbones, a small scar through one eyebrow. She looked like a fighter, someone who didn't surrender easily, someone who'd been fighting for a very long time. The blizzard raged outside his windows, but Hadrian barely noticed. He sat vigil through the night, watching this stranger sleep in his bed, and wondered what he'd just set in motion. She woke as dawn approached. Though the storm still blocked any hint of sunrise, her eyes opened suddenly dark brown, almost black, and fixed on him with startling awareness. Most humans woke slowly, confused. She came awake like a soldier, instantly alert, already cataloging threats. Her gaze found him in the shadows where he sat, and she went very still. "Easy," Hadrian said quietly, not moving from his chair. "You're safe. You collapsed at my gate during the storm. I brought you inside." She didn't relax. Her eyes tracked around the room, taking in the expensive furnishings, the height of the ceilings, the Gothic architecture. "Where am I? My home, the Everhart estate." Something flickered across her face. Everhart. The vampire family. It wasn't a question. Hadrian raised one pale eyebrow. "You know what I am. Everyone in the region knows about the vampires in the mountain." Her voice was hoarse, rough from the cold she'd endured. "They say you're dangerous, that people who come up here don't come back. An exaggeration. I value my privacy, nothing more." He leaned forward slightly. "You're human, obviously, and you're running from something. The question is what, and whether I should expect company looking for you." She sat up slowly, keeping the blankets wrapped around herself, clearly noticing for the first time that she was wearing nothing but one of his shirts. Marcus must have changed her while he'd stepped out. "No one's looking for me. No one who matters. The bruises suggest otherwise." Her hand went instinctively to her ribs, then stopped. Her eyes widened. "The bruises, they're gone. All of them. How is that possible?" Hadrian had known this moment would come. "You were dying. Hypothermia. Too far gone for conventional treatment. I gave you a choice between death and alternative medicine. You gave me your blood." It wasn't a question. She was remarkably quick, putting the pieces together with impressive speed. "I've heard the stories. Vampire blood heals humans, but it also creates a bond. You're well informed." "I read a lot." She pulled the blankets tighter. "What kind of bond?" "Nothing dramatic. You'll be able to sense me to some degree. Know when I'm near, feel echoes of strong emotion. I'll be able to find you, if necessary, within a certain range. The connection will fade over time if we don't reinforce it." He kept his voice neutral, clinical. "You'll also be more resistant to vampire compulsion, especially from other vampires. My blood offers protection as well as healing." She absorbed this quietly, her expression unreadable. "Why? Why save me? You don't know me. I could be anyone." "You could be. But you're not." Hadrian stood, moving to the windows. Outside, the blizzard showed no signs of abating. "You're someone running from violence, someone desperate enough to climb a mountain in a winter storm. I've lived a very long time. I've learned to recognize when someone genuinely needs help rather than simply wanting something. Maybe I'm a hunter. Maybe this is all a trap." He looked back at her, letting her see the full weight of his gaze, the predator beneath the civilized exterior. "If you're a hunter, you're a remarkably poor one, and if this is a trap, it's already failed." She met his eyes without flinching, which impressed him. Most humans couldn't hold his gaze for more than a few seconds. "My name is Arya Ashford, Hadrian Everhart. Though you already knew that, the Vampire King." She said it without inflection, just stating fact. "A title others gave me. I prefer to think of myself as simply old and territorial." He moved back toward the bed, keeping his distance, not wanting to frighten her. You'll stay here until the storm breaks. At least 2 more days, according to the forecast. Then you're welcome to leave, or stay longer if you need sanctuary. My home is warded against intrusion, magical and mundane. Whatever you're running from can't reach you here. And what's the price? Direct. He almost smiled. No price. Call it a courtesy between one survivor and another. She studied him for a long moment, those dark eyes searching his face for deception. Whatever she saw there must have satisfied her, because she nodded slowly. Thank you for saving my life. You're welcome. Now, you should rest more. Your body is healed but exhausted. Marcus will bring you food when you wake again. He turned to leave, to give her privacy, but her voice stopped him. Hadrian, the blood bond, does it work both ways? Can I feel you too? He looked back at her. Yes. Both ways, though my emotions are different than human ones. Older, quieter. You may not recognize what you're sensing. I can feel you now, she said quietly, like a presence at the edge of my mind, cold but not unpleasant, like winter moonlight. Something in his chest shifted at her words. In 800 years, no one had ever described his presence so poetically. Sleep, Arya Ashford. We'll talk more when you're stronger. This time she let him go. Hadrian retreated to his study and stood at the windows, watching the storm. Dawn had broken somewhere beyond the clouds, and he felt the familiar heaviness settle into his bones. Not sleep, never truly sleep, but the torpor that claimed his kind during daylight hours. He could resist it when necessary, but it cost energy he didn't need to spend. Behind him, papers lay scattered where he'd left them the night before, reports from his various business interests, legal documents requiring his signature, correspondence from other vampire families. The mundane machinery of immortal existence. None of it seemed important anymore. He could feel Arya in his home, sense her presence like a warm spot in his awareness. The bond was stronger than he'd expected, probably because she'd been so close to death when he'd given her his blood. She'd needed to drink deeply to survive, and depth of consumption strengthened the connection. Marcus appeared in the doorway, knowing better than to knock. My lord, the girl? Her name is Arya. She'll be staying as our guest until the storm passes, possibly longer. I see. Marcus's tone suggested he saw quite a lot. Shall I prepare one of the guest rooms? Yes. The blue suite, I think. It has the best morning light. Hadrian caught himself. Not that she'll see it until this cursed storm ends. Of course, my lord. A pause. If I may, it's been a long time since you've taken an interest in anyone, human or vampire. I'm not taking an interest. I'm offering sanctuary. Yes, my lord. Hadrian turned to glare at his steward, but Marcus had already disappeared with that uncanny ability servants developed after decades of service. The ability to say exactly what they meant while maintaining perfect deniability. Insufferable man. Hadrian had made him wealthy beyond measure over the years, given him a pension that would support 3 generations, and still Marcus insisted on being right about everything. The problem was, Marcus usually was right. Hadrian could feel the dawn pulling at him now, demanding rest. He moved to the chamber adjacent to his study, a room without windows, where he could surrender to day sleep without vulnerability. Before settling onto the low couch that served as his resting place, he reached out along the new bond, checking on Arya. She slept peacefully, her heartbeat steady and strong, her dreams chaotic but not nightmares. He sensed fear in her still, buried deep, but also determination. Strength. Whatever had driven her to his mountain, she hadn't broken yet. Good. He respected strength. He let the torpor take him, and for the first time in decades, Hadrian Everhart slept knowing he wasn't alone in his ancestral home. When he woke 12 hours later, full night had fallen. The storm had intensified, if anything, wind battering the ancient stone walls with enough force that even his preternatural hearing couldn't filter out the sound. He rose, stretched muscles that didn't truly need stretching, and went to check on his unexpected guest. The blue suite was empty. Hadrian felt a moment of concern before the bond told him she was still in the house, somewhere below. He followed the connection through corridors and downstairs, past portraits of his long-dead family members, and tapestries older than most countries, until he found her in the library. She'd dressed in clothes. Marcus must have provided soft pants, and a sweater that looked comically large on her frame. She sat curled in one of the leather chairs, a book open on her lap, so absorbed she didn't notice his approach until he spoke. Finding everything you need? She looked up, startled but recovering quickly. Your steward is very efficient. He brought me food, clothes, and told me I had free run of the house except for your private chambers. I hope you don't mind that I took him at his word. Not at all. The library is open to anyone who'll appreciate it. He moved closer, curious about her choice of reading material. Germanic folklore? Interesting selection. I like old stories. The ones from before people stopped believing. She closed the book, marking her place with one finger. This house is incredible. How old is it? The current structure dates to the 1600s, but there's been a dwelling on this site for much longer. My family has held this land for over 1,000 years. That must be strange. Watching the world change while you stay the same. Strange is one word for it. He settled into the chair across from hers, enjoying this conversation in a way that surprised him. May I ask what you were running from? You don't have to answer, but it might help me protect you if I understand the threat. She was quiet for a long moment, her fingers tracing the edge of the book's cover. My fiancé, ex-fiancé. He's persistent. He hurt you. Not a question. He'd seen the evidence on her skin before his blood had healed it all away. For 6 months, before I finally got the courage to leave. He didn't take it well. Her voice was steady, but he could sense the fear beneath, the trauma still fresh. I went to the police. Got a restraining order. Did everything you're supposed to do. It didn't matter. He found me anyway. Every time. I moved 3 times in 2 months. He always found me. So you came here. I remembered the stories my grandmother used to tell about the vampire in the mountains. How he valued privacy above all else. How his lands were protected by old magic. I thought. She laughed softly, bitterly. I thought maybe if I could make it here, I'd finally be safe. Or I'd die trying, which was starting to seem preferable. Hadrian felt something dark and cold settle in his chest. Rage, he realized. Ancient and terrible, a fury he hadn't felt in decades. What's his name? Why? She looked at him warily. Because if he comes here looking for you, I want to know who I'm killing. She blinked, clearly not expecting such a blunt response. You can't just kill people, can't I? I'm 800 years old, Arya. I've killed more people than you've met in your lifetime. One more will hardly weigh on my conscience. He leaned forward, letting her see the predator in his eyes. And someone who beats women, who terrorizes them to the point they'd rather die in a blizzard than face him again. That's someone the world is better off without. That's not justice. That's murder. I'm a vampire. We have different moral frameworks than humans. But he sat back, reigning in the fury. However, if it bothers you, I won't actively hunt him. But if he comes here, if he threatens you on my land, I will end him. That's not negotiable. She studied him for a long moment. You barely know me. Why do you care? I don't know, he admitted, surprising himself with the honesty. But I do. Perhaps it's the bond. Or perhaps I'm simply tired of watching humans hurt each other over and over again, century after century, and finally found a situation where I can actually stop it. He stood, restless suddenly. You're under my protection now. Whether you wanted it or not, whether I planned it or not, that's what the blood bond means. You're mine to defend. Yours? Her eyebrows rose. I don't belong to anyone. Not anymore. Poor word choice. Under my protection, then. Is that more palatable? She relaxed slightly. A little. And for the record, his name is Derek Harding. He's a lawyer in the city. Wealthy, connected, charming when he wants to be. Everyone loves him. Everyone except you. Everyone except me. She opened her book again, clearly done with the conversation. Thank you for the protection, even if I didn't ask for it. I'll try not to abuse the privilege. Hadrian left her to her reading, returning to his study to work but finding concentration impossible. His mind kept returning to her, to the matter-of-fact way she'd described her own terror, the resignation in her voice when she'd said she thought dying might be preferable. He pulled up his laptop, ancient he might be, but he'd adapted to each new century's technology with the ease of someone who'd survived countless changes and began researching Derek Harding. 45 minutes later, he was even angrier than before. Derek Harding was exactly as Arya had described. Wealthy, connected, with a history that looked pristine on the surface. But Hadrian had resources most investigators didn't, contacts in both the legal world and the darker spaces beneath. A few carefully worded calls revealed a pattern of behavior stretching back years. Multiple ex-girlfriends with similar stories. 2 previous restraining orders that had mysteriously disappeared from public records. A sealed juvenile record for assault. The man was a predator in a suit. Using his money and connections to hide his true nature, Hadrian saved everything he found, building a file. If Derek Harding did come looking for Arya, it wouldn't be Hadrian who killed him. It would be the man's own past, laid bare for the world to see. Though Hadrian wouldn't mind doing it personally. The storm continued for 3 more days, trapping them in the house together. Hadrian found himself seeking Arya out more than he should, drawn by something he couldn't quite name. They fell into an easy rhythm. Evenings in the library, discussing books and history and the strange overlap between vampire lore and reality. She was educated, sharp, with a dark sense of humor that matched his own. "So you can eat human food?" she asked on the 3rd night as Marcus served dinner. He'd prepared enough for her and a token portion for Hadrian, one of those courtesy staff maintained even when unnecessary. I can. It has no nutritional value, but the mechanical process still works. I enjoy wine sometimes for the ritual of it more than the effect. But you mostly drink blood, exclusively, for sustenance. He appreciated that she could discuss it clinically, without horror or fascination. I have donors in the city, willing humans who provide what I need in exchange for protection and compensation. All very civilized. How often? Once a week, usually. I can go longer if necessary. The older a vampire gets, the less frequently we need to feed. He paused. Does this bother you? No, I mean, it's strange to think about, but you're a different species, essentially. You need to eat just like I do. She took a bite of the pasta Marcus had prepared, chewing thoughtfully. Do you miss being human? No one had ever asked him that. Sometimes. I miss the sun most. The way it felt on skin that could feel warmth. I miss not having to schedule my existence around dawn and dusk, he considered. But I don't miss the fragility. The knowing that I had maybe 70 years if I was lucky. 50 more likely given the era I lived in. Humans burn so bright and so brief. It used to terrify me. And now? Now I envy it sometimes, that intensity. Every moment matters when you know they're limited. She was quiet, and through the bond he felt her emotions shifting. Complex and layered. I used to think I wanted forever. Now I'm just trying to make it to next week. You'll make it longer than that. He kept his voice gentle. You're stronger than you think, Arya Ashford. How would you know? You've only known me 3 days. I'm 800 years old. I've gotten good at reading people. He set down his wine glass. You climbed a mountain in a blizzard rather than surrender. You're sitting here having dinner with a vampire, asking about my feeding habits like we're discussing the weather. You're not hiding in your room, paralyzed by fear. You're adapting, surviving. That takes tremendous strength or tremendous stupidity. Sometimes they're the same thing. He smiled, a real smile, something he rarely did. The best survivors are usually a little bit foolish. The smart ones give up too easily. She smiled back, and something in Hadrian's chest tightened. He'd forgotten what it felt like. That strange human warmth. The connection that came from genuine companionship rather than political alliance or business relationship. He was in dangerous territory, and he knew it. The storm finally broke on the 4th day. Hadrian woke to silence, the absence of wind so profound it felt like pressure against his eardrums. He rose and went to the windows, pulling back heavy curtains to reveal a world transformed. Snow had buried everything, drifts reaching halfway up the ground floor windows. The sun was already setting. He'd slept through most of the day, but the sky was clear for the first time since Arya's arrival. He found her in the conservatory, staring out at the winter landscape with an expression he couldn't read. The storm's over, he said quietly, not wanting to startle her. I heard. She didn't turn around. I suppose that means I should go. Stop imposing on your hospitality. You're not imposing. You're welcome to stay as long as you like. Why? She turned to face him now, her expression fierce. Why are you being so kind to me? What do you want? Nothing. I want nothing from you. Everyone wants something. Hadrian moved closer, slowly, the way one might approach a wounded animal. Not everyone, and certainly not me. I have everything I need, Arya. Wealth, power, time. The only thing I lack is purpose, and helping you has given me that, temporarily at least. So I'm a charity case. You're someone who deserved better than what the world gave her. Let me provide better, for however long you need it. She shook her head, but he could feel her wavering through the bond. Want warring with fear, hope fighting cynicism. If I stay, he might find me, might bring his violence here. I can't do that to you. I'm a vampire king, Arya. I've survived 800 years of violence. Your ex-boyfriend doesn't frighten me. He let the full force of his nature show, the predator, beneath the civilized mask. Let him come, let him try. It will be the last mistake he makes. You can't kill everyone who threatens me. Watch me. She laughed, startled and a little shocked. You're serious, completely. He gentled his tone. Stay, at least through winter. The roads won't be safe for weeks anyway, and you have nowhere else to go. Stay and let me help you figure out your next move, whether that's returning to the city or starting somewhere new. You don't have to decide your whole future today. Just through winter? Just through winter, he agreed, though something in him rebelled at the idea of her leaving at all. If you hate it, if I'm terrible company, if you decide you'd rather face your ex than spend another day with a vampire, you can go whenever you want. No bond can hold you here against your will. She studied his face, searching for deception. Okay, through winter, but I'm not a guest. If I stay, I work. I help around the house, earn my keep somehow. That's not necessary. It is for me. Her tone was firm. I need to be useful, need to do something productive or I'll go crazy. Hadrian considered. Marcus has been begging me for years to properly catalog the library. Thousands of books, many of them centuries old, no systematic organization. If you want a project, that's yours." Her eyes lit up, genuine excitement replacing the guarded fear. "Really? You'd trust me with that?" "I'd trust you with far more." The words came out more intense than he'd intended, and he saw her register it, saw the faint color rise in her cheeks. The moment stretched between them, charged with something neither was ready to acknowledge. "Thank you," she said finally. "For everything. I don't think I've said that enough." "You said it the first night. That was sufficient." He stepped back, giving her space. "I'll have Marcus show you the library inventory system tomorrow, such as it is." As he left, he felt her watching him, felt the confusion and curiosity flowing through the bond. She was attracted to him, that much was clear. But she was also frightened, still healing from trauma that didn't disappear just because she was physically safe. He would need to be patient. To let her set the pace, control the distance between them. It should have been easy. He'd had 800 years to learn patience. But as the days turned into weeks, Hadrian found it increasingly difficult to maintain the careful distance he'd established. Arya was everywhere in his house, her presence transforming his cold ancestral home into something warmer, more alive. She worked in the library during the days while he slept, and they spent evenings together, talking for hours about everything and nothing. She told him about her life before Derek. A degree in literature, dreams of becoming a professor, a passion for ancient texts that matched his own. Derek had systematically destroyed those dreams, isolated her from friends and family, convinced her that her interests were frivolous, her ambitions worthless. Hadrian listened, and rage simmered constantly beneath his surface calm, but he kept it controlled, never letting her see how much her story affected him. She needed support, not his fury. "I used to speak 3 languages, she said one evening, curled in her favorite library chair. French, German, and English. I was learning Italian. Derek said it was pretentious, that I was showing off. Eventually, I just stopped. You should start again." Hadrian switched smoothly to French. "I speak 7 languages fluently, another 12 competently. It's one of the benefits of immortality time to study." She blinked, startled, then responded haltingly in French. "I've forgotten so much. It will come back." He kept the conversation going, patient with her stumbling grammar, encouraging her when she got frustrated. By the end of the evening, she was stringing together full sentences, her confidence returning. "Thank you," she said, back in English, "for reminding me who I used to be. You're still that person. You just forgot for a while." The bond between them grew stronger daily, fed by proximity and genuine affection. Hadrian could feel her emotions now as clearly as his own, the slow healing, the growing confidence, the complicated tangle of feelings she had toward him. Gratitude, respect, friendship, and underneath it all, attraction that grew stronger every day. He felt it too, though he tried to deny it. The way his eyes tracked her movement across a room, the pleasure he took in her laugh, rare but genuine. The fact that for the first time in decades, he looked forward to waking each evening because it meant spending time with her. Marcus noticed. "Of course. You're courting her," he said bluntly one afternoon, catching Hadrian in a rare moment of day wakefulness. "I'm doing no such thing. You gave her your blood. Let her into your private spaces. Spend every evening in her company. If that's not courting, my lord, I don't know what is. She's vulnerable. She needs support, not romantic advances from a vampire. She needs both, I think, and whether you'll admit it or not, so do you." Marcus set down the tea tray he'd been carrying. "You've been alone a long time, my lord. Too long. I've watched you retreat further into isolation year after year. Miss Ashford has brought you back to life, if you'll pardon the expression. She's human, Marcus. She'll age and die while I remain exactly as I am. Any relationship beyond friendship would be cruel, or it would be the best years of her life, and a treasured memory for yours. Not everything has to last forever to matter." Hadrian dismissed him, but the words lingered. He'd seen other vampires take human lovers over the centuries, brief, passionate affairs that burned bright and ended either in death or transformation. He'd always avoided such entanglements, considering them indulgent and ultimately tragic. But with Arya, he was starting to wonder if Marcus might be right, if maybe some things were worth the inevitable pain of loss. Winter deepened. The mountain was locked in snow and ice, the estate completely isolated. Arya seemed content with this, relaxing more each day as the distance from her old life grew. She threw herself into the library project with enthusiasm, creating a cataloging system that impressed even Hadrian's exacting standards. "You missed your calling," he told her one evening, reviewing her work. "You should have been an archivist. Maybe I still can be." After, she trailed off. "After you leave here?" After I figure out what my life is supposed to look like now. She closed the catalog she'd been updating. I've been thinking. I can't run forever. At some point, I need to face Derek. Legally, properly. End things permanently. Hadrian felt ice slide through his veins. That's dangerous. I know. But I can't rebuild my life while constantly looking over my shoulder. And staying here forever isn't an option, no matter how tempting. Why not? The words escaped before he could stop them. She looked at him, her dark eyes searching. You know why. This isn't real life. It's a beautiful dream, but eventually I have to wake up. What if you didn't? What if you stayed? Hadrian, I'm not proposing marriage or transformation or any permanent entanglement, though the lie tasted bitter. But you could stay, work here, live here. The library alone could occupy you for years. You'd be safe, protected. You could rebuild your life without fear. As what? Your employee? Your ward? She stood, agitated now. I need independence. Not another person taking care of me. I need to prove I can survive on my own. You've already proven that. You climbed a mountain in a blizzard and collapsed at the first gate I found. That's not strength, Hadrian. That's luck. Call it whatever you want. You survived. Now let yourself do more than survive. Let yourself live. She moved to the window, staring out at the frozen landscape. Through the bond, he felt her turmoil, want, and fear in equal measure. What do you want from me? I don't know. The honest answer. I didn't plan any of this. You were supposed to be a stranger I saved from freezing, nothing more. But you've become important. The thought of you leaving, of you putting yourself in danger to face that bastard, makes me want to lock all the doors and keep you here forever. That's not healthy. I'm a vampire. We're possessive by nature, territorial. When we claim something as ours, we don't let go easily. He moved toward her slowly. I know that must frighten you given your past, but my possessiveness isn't about control. It's about protection. There's a difference. Is there? But she didn't move away when he stopped beside her. Yes. Control demands obedience. Protection offers safety while respecting autonomy. I would never force you to stay, Arya. Never force you to do anything. But I will fight like hell to keep you from destroying yourself in some misguided quest for independence. It's not misguided. I need to know I can stand on my own. Then stand here. Build your strength in safety. And when you're ready, truly ready, face your demons. But don't rush into danger just to prove something. He turned her gently to face him. You matter. Your life matters. Not because you're under my protection, but because you're brilliant and strong and you deserve to live without fear. Let me help make that possible. She looked up at him, tears shining in her eyes. Why do you care so much? The bond doesn't explain all of this. No, he agreed. It doesn't. Then what does? He cupped her face in his hands, cool palms against her warm skin. I don't have words for it yet, but when I do, you'll be the first to know. She leaned into his touch, and Hadrian felt the moment crystallize into something profound. He was falling in love with her. Had already fallen, if he was honest. This mortal woman who'd stumbled into his life and somehow made 800 years of loneliness visible by contrast. He should step back, should maintain distance. Instead, he kissed her. It was gentle, restrained, giving her every opportunity to pull away. But she didn't. She rose on her toes and kissed him back, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. She tasted like the tea she'd been drinking and something uniquely her, warmth and life and everything he wasn't. Everything he wanted. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard well. She was breathing hard. His lungs didn't technically need air. Hadrian rested his forehead against hers. This is a terrible idea, he whispered. Probably. Her hands were still tangled in his shirt. Do you care? Not even a little. She laughed, the sound breathless and delighted, and kissed him again. This time there was less restraint, more heat. His hands slid into her hair, cradling her head, angling her mouth for better access. She made a small sound of pleasure that shot straight through him, waking hungers he'd kept carefully controlled for decades. He pulled back before things could go further. We should talk about this. Set boundaries. Make sure you're certain. I'm certain I want to kiss you. Is that enough for now? More than enough. He smoothed her hair back from her face, marveling at how small she was compared to him, how fragile. But for the record, I'm courting you, officially, however humans do that these days. Most people start with dating apps and coffee, not rescuing someone from a blizzard and letting them catalog your ancient library. I've never been good at following conventions. I've noticed. She stepped back, putting space between them, though she was smiling. We should take this slow. There's a lot I need to work through, as slow as you need. I have nothing but time. Right, 800 years. No pressure there. He caught her hand, bringing it to his lips. The gesture was old-fashioned, courtly, from an era when such things mattered. No pressure at all. I've waited this long for something real. I can wait longer to do it right. She squeezed his fingers. Thank you for being patient, for being you. Thank you for being here, for making this old house feel like a home again. They spent the rest of the evening in companionable silence, reading by the fire. But everything had shifted. The air felt charged, full of potential and promise. Through the bond, Hadrian could feel her happiness, warm and bright, mixed with nervousness and lingering fear. He would prove himself worthy of her trust, would show her that not all men were like Derek Harding, that love could be gentle and respectful and safe, however long it took. February arrived with more snow and shorter days, shorter nights for Hadrian, longer stretches of darkness where he could move freely. He took Arya beyond the estate walls for the first time, showing her the mountain paths he'd walked for centuries. It's beautiful, she breathed, looking out over the valley below. Lights from the distant village twinkled like fallen stars. I can see why you've stayed. The location is strategic, remote enough for privacy, close enough to civilization for convenience. And yes, beautiful. Though it's been lonely. Not anymore? Not anymore. He pulled her close against his side, sharing his body's stillness, if not warmth. She dressed warmly, bundled in a coat Marcus had purchased from the village, but the mountain cold was still fierce. Are you ready to go back? Not yet. I want to remember this. The quiet, the stars. You! I'm not going anywhere. I know. But moments like this don't last forever. I want to appreciate them while I can. It was the most human thing she could have said, and it broke his heart a little. She was so aware of time's passage, of mortality and impermanence, while he'd become complacent, assuming forever was guaranteed. Arya, he said quietly, if you wanted to stay, permanently, I would transform you, give you immortality. She went very still. That's not a decision to make lightly. No, it's not, and I'm not asking you to decide now. I'm just offering, so you know the option exists. What would that mean? Becoming a vampire? You'd lose the sun, need blood to survive, become stronger, faster, harder to kill. Your emotions would quiet somewhat, not disappear, but become less overwhelming. You'd have time. Centuries, millennia, if you were careful. You could learn every language, read every book, see the world change and evolve. He paused. But you'd also lose the ability to have children, to grow old with human friends, to die a natural death. It's not a gift everyone wants. Have you offered it to others? Twice. In 800 years. Both refused. They chose mortality, chose to burn brief and bright rather than fade slowly over centuries. I didn't argue with them. It's not a choice anyone can make for someone else. But you're telling me I could? If I wanted? If you wanted. In 5 years, 10, 20. Whenever and if ever you decide it's right for you. He turned her to face him. I'm not trying to pressure you. I just want you to know that you have options. That staying doesn't mean watching yourself age while I remain unchanged. There's a path forward, if you want it. And if I choose mortality, if I want to live a normal human lifespan, then I'll love you for every day you have and mourn you when you're gone. And count myself lucky to have known you at all. His voice was steady despite the emotion beneath. I'm not offering transformation as a condition of loving you, Arya. I'm offering it as a gift if you want it. There's no wrong answer. She reached up and kissed him, soft and sweet. Thank you for giving me that choice, for not pushing. Always your choice. Always. They stayed on the mountain another hour, talking about small things, enjoying the rare clear night. When they finally returned to the estate, Hadrian felt more at peace than he had in decades. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. The peaceful interlude couldn't last forever. In mid-February, Marcus brought Hadrian a report that sent ice through his veins. There's a man in the village, asking questions about a woman matching Miss Ashford's description, flashing money around, offering payment for information. Hadrian went very still. Derek Harding, most likely. The description matches what we found online. The villagers have said nothing they know better than to cross you, but his presence is concerning. How did he find her? The storm covered her tracks. There's no trail to follow. He's a lawyer, my lord, wealthy and connected. Perhaps he hired investigators, tracked her movements. Eventually, this was the only place she could have gone. Arya appeared in the doorway, her face pale. She'd heard enough. He's here. He found me. Hadrian moved to her immediately, pulling her into his arms. He's in the village, not here, and he can't reach you. This estate is protected by more than walls and gates. You don't know him. He won't give up. He'll find a way. Then he'll die trying. Hadrian's voice was flat, final. Marcus, I want security doubled. No one comes through those gates without my explicit permission, and I want watchers in the village. I need to know every move this man makes. Already done, my lord. Good. He looked down at Arya, feeling her trembling against him. You're safe. I promise you're safe. You can't fight my battles forever. Watch me. He pulled back enough to see her face. I told you I'd protect you. I meant it. Let him waste his time and money in the village. Let him rage against my gates. He cannot touch you here. But Hadrian could see she didn't believe him, not fully. The old fear had returned, the trauma of months being hunted. She'd started to heal here, started to feel safe. And now Derek's presence had destroyed that fragile piece. Hadrian wanted to destroy Derek in return. I need to face him, Arya said quietly. End this once and for all. Absolutely not. He won't stop, Hadrian. Not until I confront him. Make it clear that I'm never coming back. You think confrontation will stop him? Men like Derek Harding don't respond to logic or boundaries. They respond to power, to force. And I have both in abundance. He tilted her chin up. Let me handle this, please. How? You'll kill him? If necessary, and then what? You'll be a murderer. Even if no one can prove it, you'll know. It will change you. I've killed before, many times. In war. In self-defense. Not in cold blood to protect me. She pulled away. I won't let you become a monster because of me. I'm already a monster, love. Vampire, remember? You know what I mean. Her voice broke. You're good, Hadrian. Maybe the best person I've ever known. I won't let him corrupt that. He wanted to argue that he'd lost any claim to goodness centuries ago, that killing one abusive human was nothing compared to the violence he'd committed in his long existence. But he could see this mattered to her, that his soul, if vampires had such things, was important to her, so he lied. All right, no murder, but I'm still not letting you confront him. We'll find another way. What way? I don't know yet, but I have resources, connections. We'll build a legal case so airtight that he'll go to prison, or we'll make his life so uncomfortable that leaving you alone is easier than pursuing you. There are options between confrontation and killing. She didn't look convinced, but she nodded. Okay, we try it your way first. Thank you. He kissed her forehead, breathing in her scent. Trust me to keep you safe. I do trust you. That's what scares me. Hadrian spent the next week making calls, pulling strings, leveraging 800 years of accumulated favors and connections. The file he'd built on Derek Harding grew thicker, more damning. 3 ex-girlfriends willing to testify about abuse, a pattern of sealed records and disappeared complaints. Evidence of financial crimes nothing major, but enough to attract attention from the right people. He had everything he needed to destroy Derek Harding's life without violence. But he wanted violence, wanted to rip out the man's throat and watch him bleed. Wanted to make him feel a fraction of the fear he'd inflicted on Arya. Marcus found him in his study late one evening, staring at Derek's photo with undisguised hatred. My lord, perhaps you should step back from this. Let me handle the legal aspects. I can't. Every time I close my eyes, I see her bruises, the ones my blood healed. I see her collapsing in the snow, so desperate to escape that death seemed preferable. His hand tightened on the desk. I want him dead, Marcus. I know, but Miss Ashford doesn't want that. And her wishes should matter more than your desire for vengeance. Since when did you become the voice of reason? Someone has to be, my lord. Marcus set down a fresh cup of blood, drawn from one of Hadrian's regular donors in the city. Drink. You're letting rage cloud your judgment. Hadrian drank, the blood taking the edge off his fury. Marcus was right. He was letting emotions rule him, something he hadn't done in centuries. All because of one mortal woman who'd somehow become the center of his existence in a matter of weeks. I'm in love with her, he said quietly. I know that too, my lord. It's impractical, dangerous. She's human, I'm not. Any relationship is temporary at best. Unless she chooses transformation, I won't pressure her into immortality just because I can't face losing her. You wouldn't be pressuring. You'd be offering a choice. There's a difference. Marcus moved toward the door. She loves you too, you know. Even if neither of you has said it yet. I can see it in how she looks at you, how she lights up when you enter a room. Don't let fear of loss prevent you from embracing what you have now. When Marcus left, Hadrian sat in the darkness and wondered when his butler had become so wise, and whether he was brave enough to take the advice. The confrontation came 3 days later. Derek Harding forced his way past the village barriers, drove his expensive car up the mountain road, and arrived at Hadrian's gates demanding entry. Hadrian watched from the security monitors as the man pounded on iron, shouting threats and demands. He was handsome in a conventional way, tall, athletic, with the kind of confidence money bought. He didn't look like a monster. That was what made him dangerous. Let me in, Derek shouted at the cameras he'd obviously spotted. I know she's here. Arya belongs to me, and I'm not leaving without her. Hadrian's control snapped. He was at the gates in seconds, moving with preternatural speed. Derek stumbled back as Hadrian appeared, shock warring with anger on his face. You're trespassing, Hadrian said quietly. Each word dripped with menace. Leave now or face the consequences. Who the hell are you? Someone far more dangerous than you could imagine. Leave. I won't ask again. Not without Arya. Where is she? What have you done with her? Miss Ashford is under my protection. She's here willingly, staying of her own choice. You, on the other hand, are not welcome. She's confused, brainwashed. I'm her fiancé, ex-fiancé, and the only one doing any brainwashing was you. Hadrian leaned closer, letting Derek see the inhuman glow in his eyes, the fangs that extended when his control slipped. You beat her, terrorized her, drove her to run into a blizzard rather than face you. And now you dare come here and claim she belongs to you? Derek's face went white as he realized what Hadrian was. Vampire. You're the vampire everyone whispers about. Yes, and you're the human who's about to learn why people whisper. Hadrian gripped the gates, the iron screaming in protest as he bent it with bare hands. Run. Leave this mountain and never return. Because if I see you again, if you so much as think about Arya Ashford, I will kill you so slowly that death will be a mercy you beg for. Do you understand? You can't threaten me. I have rights. I'll call the police. Please do. I'll be happy to share with them the evidence I've compiled. The ex-girlfriends willing to testify. The sealed records I've unsealed. The pattern of abuse stretching back a decade. By the time I'm done, you'll lose your law license, your reputation, and quite possibly your freedom. Hadrian smiled, cold and terrible. Or you could run. Disappear. Start over somewhere far from here. I'll even give you a head start. Derek opened his mouth, closed it. Calculation flickered across his face, weighing his options, trying to determine if Hadrian was bluffing. He wasn't. 48 hours, Hadrian continued. I want you out of the state, out of the region. And if you ever contact Arya again, through any means, I'll know, and I'll come for you. There is nowhere on this planet you can hide from me, nowhere I can't reach. Do we have an understanding? Derek nodded jerkily, fear finally overtaking anger. Good. Now leave my mountain. Derek ran, actually turned and ran back to his car, tires spinning on ice as he fled back down the road. Hadrian watched until the taillights disappeared, then turned to find Arya standing on the estate steps. She'd seen everything, heard everything. Did you mean it? She asked. About hunting him down if he comes back. Every word. Good. She walked toward him, no fear in her expression. Thank you for protecting me, for being terrifying on my behalf. I may have just made things worse. If he goes to the authorities, he won't. Men like Derek hate exposure more than anything. He'll slink away and find another victim, someone who doesn't have a vampire king defending her. That's not comforting, no. But it's reality. She reached him, taking his hands. I need to tell you something. I've been thinking about what you said, about options, about the future. Hadrian went still. Arya, I love you. The words came out in a rush. I know it's fast. I know it's probably complicated by the bond and the situation, but I don't care. I love you, Hadrian Everhart. You saved my life, and then you gave it back to me better than before. You made me remember who I was, who I could be. And I don't want to leave. Not after winter. Not ever, if you'll have me. If I'll have you? He pulled her close, crushing her against him. Arya, I've loved you since the night you asked me what my presence felt like and called it winter moonlight. I just didn't have the courage to say it. You? Not courageous? The vampire who just threatened to hunt a man across continents. Courage in battle is easy. Courage in love is terrifying. He pulled back enough to see her face. Are you certain? You've been through trauma. You're still healing. I don't want you making decisions based on gratitude or fear of being alone. I'm not. I'm making decisions based on loving someone who sees me as strong rather than broken, who respects my choices even when he disagrees, who bent iron gates with his bare hands to defend me. She smiled. Also, you have an amazing library, and I haven't finished cataloging it. He laughed, the sound rusty from disuse but genuine. Well, if it's about the books, it's about everything. You're everything. She sobered. I'm not ready for transformation yet. I need time to be human, to figure out who I am without Derek's shadow. But someday, if you're still willing, I'd like to walk through centuries with you, learn all 7 of your languages, see the world change, grow old in the ways that matter while staying young in the ways that don't someday, whenever you're ready. He kissed her, pouring 800 years of loneliness and hope into the contact. I'll wait forever if that's what you need. Let's start with a few years and see how it goes. They stood in the snow, holding each other as the sun set behind the mountains. Through the bond, Hadrian felt her happiness, her relief, her love. It echoed his own feelings, magnified by the connection between them until he couldn't tell where she ended and he began. Come inside, he whispered against her hair. Let me show you properly how vampires court the women they love. Is it very different from humans? More formal, much more patient, and significantly more expensive. I have 800 years of wealth to spend on spoiling you. I don't need expensive gifts. I know. That's one of the reasons I love you." He swung her up into his arms, making her laugh. "But you're getting them anyway, starting with a proper winter wardrobe so you stop stealing Marcus's spare coats. That was one time. Twice. I have security footage." She buried her face against his neck, still laughing. Hadrian carried her inside, into warmth and light and a future he'd never imagined possible. The following weeks passed in a haze of happiness. Derek Harding disappeared. As promised, Hadrian's contacts reported he'd left the state entirely, taken a job in Seattle. Far enough away to satisfy the threat, close enough that Hadrian could reach him if necessary, Aria bloomed in the safety Hadrian provided. Her confidence returned, her natural humor and intelligence shining through without fear to dim them. She finished cataloging half the library and started learning Italian, practicing with Hadrian over evening wine. They grew closer, the bond between them deepening into something profound. Hadrian courted her properly, with flowers and poetry and long walks through the winter forest. He introduced her to the few vampire friends he maintained contact with, powerful beings who took one look at them together and smiled knowingly. "You're besotted," Lady Katerina told him at a gathering in March. She was older than Hadrian by 2 centuries, a vampire who'd seen empires rise and fall. "I never thought I'd see the day the Ice King melted. I'm not melted. I'm simply adjusted. You're in love. Don't bother denying it. It's written all over your face." She glanced to where Arya was talking with another guest, animated and engaged. "She's lovely. Strong for a human. Will you transform her? If she chooses it. Someday, and if she doesn't, then I'll love her for however long I have." Katerina studied him with ancient eyes. "You've changed, my friend, in a good way. She's made you remember what it means to be alive, even for the undead." It was true. Hadrian felt more vital, more present than he had in centuries. The crushing isolation that had defined his existence had lifted, replaced by connection and joy. Even the mundane parts of existence felt brighter with Arya beside him. He'd forgotten what it was like to love someone, to care about their happiness more than his own comfort. To want to build a future rather than simply endure eternity, Arya was transforming him without any exchange of blood, making him more human even as she learned to navigate his vampire world. Spring came late to the mountains, but it arrived eventually. Snow melted, revealing the gardens Hadrian's staff maintained. Flowers bloomed, bringing color to the gray landscape, and Arya stood in the conservatory, watching the world wake up from winter. "It's beautiful," she said as Hadrian joined her. "I'd forgotten what spring looked like. You've been here 4 months. It's felt like both forever and no time at all." "I know what you mean." She leaned against him. "I need to tell you something. I've been thinking about the future. About us." Hadrian felt his chest tighten. "What about it?" "I want to go back. To the city. Face my old life. Get real closure. File charges against Derek. Testify if necessary. Reclaim my identity legally and emotionally." She turned to face him. "But I want to come back here. Make this my home base if you'll have me. Build my life around the library work. Maybe teach online classes. Be with you. Of course I'll have you. This is your home for as long as you want it. Not as a guest, though. As a partner. I want to contribute, pay my share, be an equal part of this household. Arya, I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. And I have a trust fund from my grandmother that I never touched while with Derek. I'm not wealthy like you, but I'm not destitute. Let me contribute. Let me be independent while choosing to be with you. It's important." Hadrian understood. She needed to prove to herself that she could stand alone, even if she chose to stand beside him. "All right, we'll work out an arrangement. Though you'll have to negotiate with Marcus. He runs the household finances. I can handle Marcus." She smiled. "And thank you for understanding why this matters. Always." He kissed her softly. "When do you want to go back to the city?" "Soon, before I lose my courage." She took a breath. "Will you come with me? I know the city is more difficult for you, the crowds, the sunlight, but I don't want to do this alone. I'll be beside you every step, whatever you need." They left a week later, driving down the mountain in the armored car Hadrian kept for trips to the city. He wore dark glasses and gloves. Despite the heavy tinting of the windows, even indirect sunlight was uncomfortable for vampires of his age, though not deadly. Arya sat beside him, nervous but determined. The city was overwhelming after months in the mountains. Noise, crowds, the constant motion of modern life. Hadrian tolerated it because Arya needed this, because facing her past was part of her healing. They went to the police first. Arya filed a formal complaint backed by the evidence Hadrian had compiled and her own testimony. The detective assigned to the case was sympathetic, professional. He promised to investigate fully. "Between you and me," he said quietly as they prepared to leave, "Derek Harding has gotten away with too much for too long. It's time someone called him to account." Next came the legal process of reclaiming her life. New bank accounts, new phone number, restraining order properly filed and documented, hours of paperwork that Hadrian sat through patiently, his presence a silent support. By the third day, Arya was exhausted but lighter. The weight she'd carried for months was lifting, one administrative step at a time. "Thank you," she told Hadrian as they returned to the hotel, one of the few buildings in the city, with rooms that could be properly sealed against sunlight. "For being here, for not trying to do this for me. You needed to do it yourself. I just made sure you weren't alone in the doing. That's the difference." She curled against him on the hotel bed, both of them fully clothed, just seeking comfort. "Derek tried to control every aspect of my life. You support me while letting me maintain control. It's the difference between love and possession. I do possess you, though," Hadrian said quietly. "In the vampire sense. You're mine. I would destroy anyone who tried to hurt you. Is that not possession? It's protection. There's a difference. You don't possess my choices, my identity, my autonomy. You possess my heart, and I gave that freely." She propped herself up to look at him. "Do you understand the distinction? I'm beginning to." He traced her face with one pale finger. "You've taught me a lot about what love should be. Real love, not the political alliances or temporary affairs I've known before. Good. Keep learning." She kissed him, sweet and slow. "Now we have 2 days before the full moon, when the detective said Derek would be called in for questioning. What should we do with our time?" "I have some ideas." Hadrian smiled, a wicked expression that made her laugh. "Most of them involve keeping you in this bed." "I like the way you think." They spent the next 2 days tangled together, learning each other's bodies and preferences, with the patience of people who had time to get it right. Hadrian was careful, attentive, always checking that she was comfortable. The trauma Derek had inflicted hadn't disappeared, but with Hadrian, Arya could rewrite those associations, replace fear and pain with pleasure and genuine intimacy. By the time they emerged, she looked radiant, and Hadrian felt more complete than he had in 800 years. The confrontation with Derek came at the police station. They didn't attend. Arya's testimony was already on record, but the detective called afterward with an update. "He's being charged with multiple counts of assault and stalking, from you and 3 other women who came forward after your complaint. He's looking at serious prison time." A pause. "He's also being investigated by the Bar Association, likely to lose his license." Arya's hand tightened on the phone. "Good. He can't hurt anyone else. Thanks to you. You were brave, Miss Ashford. Not everyone has the courage to stand up like you did." When she hung up, Arya was crying, but from relief, not sadness. "It's over. Really over." Hadrian held her as she wept, stroking her hair, murmuring comfort. "You did it. You faced him and won. We did it. I couldn't have without you. You could have. But I'm glad you didn't have to." They returned to the mountain the next day, both relieved to leave the city behind. As the car climbed the familiar roads, Arya watched the landscape transform from urban sprawl to wilderness. "This is home now," she said softly. "Not just a refuge. Home, yes." Hadrian took her hand. "For as long as you want it. What about forever? Is that long enough?" He looked at her sharply. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I've thought about your offer, about transformation. And I'm not ready yet. I want a few more years as human, experiencing life without fear. But someday, maybe in 5 years, maybe 10, I want to take that step, become what you are. Spend eternity as your partner, not just your lover." Hadrian had to pull the car over, emotion overwhelming him. "You're certain?" "As certain as I can be about something so enormous. I know it means sacrifice the sun, mortality, the human experience, but it also means time. Time to learn everything, see everything, be everything I could be. With you." She cupped his face. "I love you, Hadrian. I want forever with you." He kissed her, deep and possessive and full of promise. "Forever then, whenever you're ready. I'll be here." They made it back to the estate and spent the rest of the day planning their future. All the places they'd travel, languages she'd learn, projects she'd undertake. Centuries stretched ahead of them, full of possibility. That evening, as they sat in the library where they'd spent so many hours, Arya asked the question she'd been holding back. Will it hurt, the transformation? Yes. Hadrian wouldn't lie to her. The venom burns as it changes your cells, rewrites your biology. 3 days of agony. But then it's over, and you're reborn as something stronger. And you'll be with me? Through all of it? Every second. I won't leave your side. Then I can endure it. She smiled. I've survived worse, after all. I survived Derek. I survived nearly freezing to death. I can survive becoming a vampire. That's my fierce girl. He pulled her close. But not yet. Enjoy your humanity while you have it. We have time. They did have time. Years of it. Building their life together. Arya finished cataloging the library and started teaching online courses in medieval literature. Hadrian modernized his business interests, finding new purpose in building something for their shared future rather than just maintaining his wealth. They traveled carefully, with Hadrian sticking to northern latitudes and winter seasons where nights were longest. Prague, Edinburgh, Reykjavik, places with history and culture, museums and bookshops, everything Arya had dreamed of seeing. They were happy, genuinely, completely happy in a way Hadrian hadn't known was possible. 5 years passed like a breath. Then one spring evening, as they walked through gardens now familiar and beloved, Arya stopped. "I'm ready," she said simply. Hadrian knew immediately what she meant. "Are you certain? There's no undoing it once started." "I'm certain. I've had my years as human. Good years, healing years. Now I want forever." She took his hands. "Transform me. Make me yours in every sense. Let's start our real future." He scheduled it carefully, made sure they had privacy, that Marcus and the staff knew not to disturb them for 3 days. Prepared the chamber where she'd rest through the transformation, stocked with everything they might need. The night came soft and clear, moonlight streaming through the windows. Arya dressed in comfortable clothes and kissed him with fierce determination. "I love you," she said. "Now and forever. Now and forever," he echoed, and sank his fangs into her throat. The venom flowed, burning through her veins. Arya gasped, then screamed as the change took hold. Hadrian held her through it, whispering comfort and love, even though he knew she couldn't really hear him through the pain. 3 days, 72 hours of agony as her body died and was reborn. Hadrian sat vigil every moment, holding her hand, monitoring her transformation with the experience of 800 years. On the 3rd day, as dusk fell, Arya opened her eyes. They glowed red, the mark of a newborn vampire. Her skin had paled to match his, her dark hair now streaked with white. She looked the same but different, familiar but transformed. "Hadrian?" Her voice was rough, uncertain. "I'm here, you made it. You're a vampire now." She sat up slowly, testing her new body. Strength flooded through her, the supernatural power of their kind. Her senses expanded, suddenly able to hear Marcus moving 3 floors below, smell the blood in Hadrian's veins, feel the texture of air against her skin. "It's so much," she whispered. "Everything is so intense, it will settle. In time, you'll learn to filter, to control it." He helped her stand. "How do you feel?" "Strong. Clear. Like I've been living in fog and suddenly I can see." She looked at him, really looked with her new vision. "You're beautiful. I thought you were before, but now." Vampires see each other differently than humans do, more clearly. He led her to a mirror, let her see herself transformed. "You're beautiful too. Stronger. Eternal." She touched her reflection, marveling at the changes. "No going back now. Do you regret it?" "Not even a little." She turned and kissed him, and Hadrian felt the difference immediately. She was no longer fragile, no longer someone he had to be careful with. She was his equal now in strength and power, a partner in truth. "Welcome to immortality," he murmured against her lips. "Our forever starts now." The months that followed were an adjustment. Arya had to learn control, master her new strength and hunger. Hadrian taught her patiently, remembering his own newborn years. They hunted together in the mountains, learned to dance the fine line between vampire and humanity. She adapted quickly, her intelligence and determination serving her well. Within a year, she had the control of vampires twice her age. She could move among humans without triggering their instinctual fear, could feed without killing, could manage the political aspects of vampire society. But the best part was the freedom. No more worrying about her aging while he stayed young. No more counting the years they had together. They had forever now, centuries to love and learn and grow. They stood on the mountain one evening, 5 years after her transformation, looking out over the valley below. A decade since she'd collapsed at his gates, half frozen and desperate. "Do you ever think about that night?" Arya asked. "When you found me." "Every day. It changed everything. You saved my life. You saved mine too. I just didn't realize I needed saving." He pulled her close. "I'd been alone so long I'd forgotten what it felt like to be part of something, to love someone. You reminded me. Good." She smiled, her fangs gleaming white in the moonlight. "Because you're stuck with me now. Forever. Forever," he agreed, and kissed her as the stars came out above them. They'd faced blizzards and violence, trauma and transformation. They'd built something real and lasting from desperate circumstances. And now they had time, infinite time, to explore their love, to build their life, to write their story across centuries. Hadrian had lived 800 years alone. Now he'd live countless more with Arya beside him, and every moment would be precious in a way immortality rarely was. She'd come to his gates dying, and he'd refused to let her fall. In saving her, he'd saved himself. In loving her, he'd found purpose. And in transforming her, he'd gained a partner for eternity. Their story had begun with a blizzard and desperation. It would continue through centuries of love and discovery. The vampire king and his queen facing forever together. It was, Hadrian thought as he held her close, the best decision he'd made in 800 years. And they had infinite time ahead to make it even better. The mountain stood eternal above them, witness to their love. And in the ancient castle that had been Hadrian's lonely fortress, lights blazed warm and welcoming. No longer a refuge from the world, but a home, their home, forever.